SciByte is produced by JupiterBroadcasting.com. Independent entertainment on demand. Check us out. You're listening to SciByte, Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly science podcast. We recorded this one live on January 24th for release on January 25th, 2012. My name is Chris, and joining us, like every single week, is Heather. Hey, Heather.
Hello there, Chris.
Hey, happy science to you.
Happy science.
So, I've recovered from the snowpocalypse. How you doing on your side of the world?
Just a tiny bit of snow, very cold. I felt bad for the people who had to test outside today.
Oh, yeah.
At my job.
So you have to, even though when it's a crappy weather outside, you sometimes end up having to go outside to run experiments?
Yeah, we've had to, run in almost blizzards.
I gotta be honest with you. One of the greatest things about being a podcaster is I spend a lot of time indoors. Maybe too much time.
In the not snow.
Yeah. So
in the not snow is good, though.
Do you want to let people know what we have coming up on the show today?
Yeah, we're going to take a look at the recent solar flare, SpaceX's plans for reaching the space station, Dolphin speech, exoplanets, getting energy from seaweed, crowdsourcing earthquake data, spacecraft updates, and as always, take a peek back into history and up in the sky this week.
Oh boy. Well, I, of course, am always extremely enthusiastic about the spaceship updates. Maybe a little too much. I don't know.
That's okay.
I can be honest with myself. I might cross the limit. But also, the solar flare thing is sort of like a big story this week. So,
yes.
I don't know. Do you have anything you want to cover? Oh, I do have something I want to cover at the top of the show before we get rolling.
Okay.
I have made it easier for people to get a hold of SciByte. We have been, we collect feedback, and sometimes we cover it on the show. Sometimes we store it up for the video version of SciByte that we do once a month. But if you want to get a hold of us, I got a new URL you go to. Just go over to jupiterbroadcasting.com/contact, and then there's a contact form in there. You fill out your information, your message to us, and then also you can just select SciByte as the show you want to send information to, and it goes both to Heather and I, and we get it and we can process it. There's also a number on there if you just want to call into the show and leave a voicemail. We'd love to play your voicemails. So go over to jupiterbroadcasting.com/contact if you want to send feedback or follow up. We love everything from beginner questions to expert questions, and of course always corrections as well. Would be a great place to do that. So I wanted to mention that before we move on, because that's new. I set up entries in there for every show on the network, plus ways to get a hold of me, or if you want to do, we'd love if somebody wants to do sponsorships. I put that as an option in there too. So hopefully it'll be a nice, easy way, because people were kind of forgetting how to contact each show. So boom, it's right there now. It's just easy to follow.
Nice.
So check it out, everyone. jupiterbroadcasting.com/contact. All right, Heather, with that out of the way, I think it's time for the news. All right, I talked about it a little bit already, but we have a really big news story this week, don't we?
Yes. It is striking the major media, processing its way through everything, making us feel like the sky is going to melt.
Okay, so I believe if I've followed the news correctly, there is a massive projection from the sun coming at the Earth. It's going to incinerate the atmosphere, or at least, best case scenario, knock out the power grid. Am I correct on that, or is that maybe a little offbeat?
A little offbeat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, the night before this was recorded, and the night of the recording of this show, there's going to be some good aurora. A little bit southern than it's usually is. We've already had some pictures and some videos of the awesome aurora from last night go up on the net, but some polar planes were diverted. That's about it.
That's it. So there really was, though, like a big ejection from the sun. That part's legit, right?
Oh, yeah. These solar flares, they're split up into 5 categories. A, B, C, and then there's M and X.
Oh.
C, just kind of doesn't do much. X are the big solar flares. Those are the major events, blackouts, radiation storms, internet, power grids. Everything's unhappy. Very unhappy.
Do we have many of those happening on record?
No, those don't happen very often at all. there have been some very large ones in the past. I believe I talked about it on a SciByte before, where it's, we've had history books of some miners, it was so bright that they kind of woke up and went to work at 2 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, right.
Because the sky was so bright.
Yeah, yeah.
This one was an M, so it was getting close to the X, and this most powerful one in the last 6 years. So
the sun has been getting more and more active. I mean, as I just over the period of the show, I would say that's the case as well. But really, before we even brought SciByte back, it seems like the sun has gone into a very is putting it in the context of, like, I would say it's it's almost like an active volcano, and it just keeps erupting over and over again. Does the sun go through cycles like this?
It does. There's an 11-year cycle. It has a low point and a high point, and the high point is coming in 2013 or 2014. So it's just getting more and more active,
really?
building up to the high.
We're just getting started.
Yeah, we're starting to get towards the big stuff going on.
Okay. Well, that actually makes me feel a little better with it being 2012 and all. I actually like the idea that something happens even bigger at a different, further down
in the
road.
future.
If you were like, no, 2012, that's going to be the most active, I was like, I'm going to be a little worried.
Oh, no. No, it's next year. Okay. It's a year or two. Right.
Okay, good. We're safe.
Yeah, we're okay for now.
Okay.
So like I said, some polar flights were diverted, or the ones that couldn't be diverted were just flying at a lower level. I mean, it's really a moderate storm. Not really going to do a lot to the ground or space-based assets. So, I mean, the astronauts in space, there's some things that people will worry about too. In the space station,
right.
No danger from this, really.
Right.
The Earth's magnetic field and the station walls itself protect the astronauts from most of the particles that are emitted from the sun. Now, what you do worry about is these high energetic particles, the cosmic rays and stuff, which they're only allowed so much of that kind of stuff before they're grounded. But actually, during a solar flare coronal mass ejection event, when it sweeps by the Earth, it kind of essentially hits it kind of hard enough that it sweeps away all these high energetic particles. And it kind of is the safest time for the space station astronauts. Huh. Now, none of them are allowed to spacewalk. You don't want to spacewalk because that's just fabric between you and space. But the metal walls will stop a lot of it. And that's good. In the animated GIFs that you see, of the sun being all excited, there's from the probes, you'll see like it gets all staticky. And that's not just static. That is the sun's particles from this event.
Wow.
Just hitting the sensor and it going, whoa.
We've got a video of that in the show notes if folks want to check it out, or if you're watching the visual companion that we do put out with this show. Yeah, the sensor itself, I didn't even think about it. I registered, I was watching the video here and I noticed that all of a sudden there was just this crazy almost, what it almost looks like is snow. Yeah, like on the TV. Yeah, when you get bad reception.
And that's sort of how it was, is just, snow of particles just hitting it. Now, the like we said, there's a lot of probes. We've got, the the two probes that we can kind of get the 360 view of the sun now. But it did allow us, scientists, to pinpoint the arrival way more accurately. Generally, you kind of get 7 hours plus or minus. This time they were able to predict the arrival within 13 minutes.
Oh.
So they were able to really see the whole lifespan of this thing. So as it started, as it traveled, and they were able to say, all right, this is when it's going to hit. So that kind of thing is really useful, because if there's a really big one that comes, then oftentimes if you take the power grid down, if there's something that would pose a danger to power grids or satellites.
Preemptively shut down?
Yeah, you could preemptively shut down something. And, if you have to black everybody out for a few hours, then you black everybody out for a few hours and then it comes back. And it comes back, actually.
So what would trigger that? I mean, okay, here we are. This is supposedly the biggest one they've seen, since 2005, right? So,
yeah.
But they didn't make the call. They're able to determine when they need to make that call before it hits us?
Well, sort of.
Because they didn't make it on this one, and it's the biggest one we've seen.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's so much energetic particles, and that kind of gets them into the main subsets, the A, B, C, and
I
X.
see.
And then they have a little number next to them, and that is how bright they are in the X-ray.
I got
So
you.
this was M8.9.
So they're able to gauge that by measuring that.
Yeah, they're able to see how bright it is, how big it is, and sort of classify it in fairly simple way so that all the scientists can know this is what it is, this is how strong it is, and that gives you a lot of the information you need to kind of move forward.
Huh. The official day, the official precise time of eruption they have in here as January 22nd at 10:59 p.m. Eastern time.
Yes.
I was still up. Let's see. I was probably just wrapping up working on the Linux Action Show when that happened, and I had no idea.
Yep.
Where were you when the sun erupted?
A new thing. You could tweet. I was tweeting when the sun erupted. And I'm still tweeting.
Can we talk about this for a second? I mean, so they really are legitimately talking about what to do if something like this hits? Because we'd be talking communication interruptions, at least definitely radio interruptions. We'd be talking
radio, satellite,
power grids. So they are seriously saying, what do we do? Because this could be a problem, especially if you said it's going to continue to build. It's going to continue building for the next couple of years.
Yeah, whenever these kind of strong events happen, any of the scientists or really any of the experts that come on and talk about these kind of things say, because they want to bring some attention to it, say, yeah, this one was only this bad, but we do need to prepare, especially the more power-driven and technology-driven and satellite-driven everything is. I mean, just think about who has a landline. Not everybody has landlines anymore.
Or just,
you have a cell phone.
Or the reliance on GPS and things like that.
Cell phones and GPS and satellites. And so if all these things went down, and, if they went down for a significant period of time, then that would be bad.
Oh, I just don't even want to think about it. So, yeah, that's kind of freaky.
It's the time when,
how would we share science with the world?
It's a very first world problem.
It is, and it would be a massive economic blow. It would be a massive economic blow.
Oh yeah,
and I suppose it would likely envelop most of the world. It wouldn't just be like something that hit California and the West Coast. It would be like
it would, depending on how strong it would be the worst at the poles and sort of progressively less and less to the equator. But if any of the satellites would still get blasted.
Right.
So satellites,
there goes your DirecTV, there goes your
satellites
GPS.
Get very unhappy. Then ground-based stuff gets progressively unhappy the closer you are to the poles.
There goes basically every major form of data delivery. If you knock out the satellite TV or whatever it is, I mean that's just a massive thing. Plus, so then so whatever on the ground. I mean, it's huge. This seems like a really big problem.
Yeah, and it's also said, any of these events that come by, they try to say, yeah, this one wasn't so bad. A couple of flights had to be diverted. Got a little static on the radio. This satellite was a little unhappy. But are we prepared? We're watching now so we can predict these when they're going to arrive at Earth. Are we prepared? And do we have the plan set up for this kind of thing to happen?
What would you do? I mean, if they came on the news or on the radio and they said, you know what, we're pretty sure it's going to be a significant one, like the biggest ever. We're recommending you may want to turn off your things at home. Would you do it? Would you turn off your computer for a day? Would you unplug all your electronics?
Depending on how bad it was, I would definitely not just turn off but unplug everything that I could. Yeah. Maybe not a couple of lights. I mean, things that can be that aren't very expensive. Run on the battery of your laptop, but pull out.
I would definitely do it too. But I mean, for me, it would mean stopping my business for a day.
True. Very true. But depending on how bad it was, if they don't take down the power grid,
right,
then it doesn't really matter.
Right.
You're just saving your equipment.
Right. Well, that's something.
I think
that'd be something I'd do. I mean, maybe I'd keep an old machine up if I had to or something. I don't know.
Yeah. It'd be the kind of thing where it'd be so many hours of warning that you'd have. And then it's a lot of decisions have to be made from the government to the power industry to defense to you. Every layer of technology and anyone who deals with technology or power has to decide, what am I going to do?
And there's no necessarily, there's no rule that says the solar flare activity will pass through by the Earth for 20 minutes. I mean, it depends on the size, right? So it could be something that is affecting us, like the actual affecting of it could happen for a while, right? If it's something, if it's a big one.
Well, the length of time that it's actually here would be so long. But the effects of it, I mean, it sends all these energetic particles and this electrical, it deals with all these electrical systems and satellites. So it's more the result. If I trip and fall and hurt myself, the actually, fall didn't last that long. Now the bruise or the cracked bone that happened,
for sure,
that lasts a while.
But what determines the length and the duration of the event?
The event itself depends on how large it is.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, some of these could be really large, but not aimed to the Earth.
Oh, sure.
There were a couple just this strong that happened last week, but they were not Earth aimed.
Huh.
So some of it depends on how strong it is, how much coronal of the mass from the coronal mass ejection there is, how many energetic particles there are with it, if it's Earth based, if it's flying in our direction. But I mean, the more technology we have aiming at the sun and the more we understand it, the better we'll be able to say, this is when it's going to happen. It'll last for this long. Now, decide between now and then what you're going to do.
So, Sotor Spec in the chat room asks an interesting question. Now, I think the answer to his question is no, because this one, it erupted on the 22nd, but it would have taken a certain amount of time to get here. But he's asking, are these solar flares the reason my radio stations have become extremely fuzzy over the last week? Now, probably the answer is no, but is there a resource people can use to ask that question in a sense? Like, how do we find out if the issues we're having with our wireless communications or devices are solar flare related? What would you do?
Well, the event itself is one clue, and then there's some what they call aurora watches, places that you can go online that says this is how far the aurora is coming down, and you can kind of get an idea from there. I mean, if you're in very northern or very southern locations, then it's possible that some fuzziness in the radio is because of this.
Well, you have an auroral forecast link here in the show notes.
Yes, I do.
So maybe if somebody went to visit that, they'd at least get the information if there's solar flare activity affecting us right now.
Yeah, there's various places to watch solar activities. It's, hey, there's a big storm coming up. There's even a Twitter for spaceweather.com. It tells you when there's solar flares, any big space weather events that are happening or just happened.
Spaceweather.com.
Yes.
Great.
Well, there's Earth weather and there's space weather.
Oh my gosh. That's great.
The sun is a busy place.
So links to those in the show notes. I'm just looking at them right now just to see if there's anything that jumps out at me. But it looks like, actually, spaceweather.com has a really good chart where they break down solar flare activity. And here's a perfect example where Sotor Spec could look to see if that spike corresponds with the issues he's been having with his radio reception. So that's that'd probably do exactly what he's looking for.
Yeah, and they'll even, they'll say at this latitudes, what's the likelihood of something happening hitting you in the next 24 hours, in the next 48 hours? And it'll be like 10%, 12%. So are you going to have aurora? Are you having this kind of thing in this area? So there's a lot of material there to kind of give you an idea of what's happening.
Roger that. Well, this is pretty interesting. So any other thoughts on the story?
No, it's just kind of on everyone's minds and kind of waiting to see it's whenever these things happen, it's always a kick to the major power companies and all the satellite people going, Hey, do you guys have plans? Hello?
Well, I question. So I can't remember. There was there was a blackout that happened last year that seemed to coincide pretty well with a solar flare event arriving to Earth, and there was a brownout or something that had to happen, but nobody asked the question, was it solar flare related? And I'm just wondering, would they admit it? Because wouldn't that really freak people out if people realized how vulnerable we were to that kind of thing? Do you think they would be honest?
I don't know. People, most likely. I mean, it would be such a big event that so many countries would be affected. And with the internet being an instant communication event, some country is going to share to its people.
True that.
Hey, and if you're on the same latitude, you're essentially going, they're freaking out. Perhaps we should be freaking out.
That's a good point. It'd be on Reddit within the hour.
Oh, yeah, within minutes. Seconds, minutes, let's face it.
Yeah. That's But
I mean, there's a lot of times where you're like, oh, there's a solar storm. My BlackBerry or my iPhone isn't connecting. It's that person's fault as you shake your fist in the sky. But not necessarily. Probably not really.
It does feel good to blame the sun for something, though.
Yep.
Because it's usually always good guy sun. And it's nice every now and then to catch it in the act.
Yeah, you're like, hey, I know what you did.
All right, well, let's just take a quick pause right here to make some money. And actually, I got interesting things to tell you guys about. But first, I want to give you an Audible book recommendation because I know some of you out there are really enjoying these. And this week, I was celebrating Carl Sagan in my own way, and I did a search for works by Carl Sagan because he seems to be, in retrospection now of the 20th century, one of the great minds.
Yeah, there were a couple of authors who were just thinking of things that science didn't catch up to for many years.
Well, and I mean, I don't know. I watched the Cosmos series in school, and just watching those again recently has been, they're very profound. I mean, he thought on such an enormous scale that it is almost like candy for an eager mind. And so I went on a search because I wanted to know what's available by Carl Sagan on Audible. And actually, I found Contact. Now, you remember the movie Contact, right?
Yes, I do.
Well, I wasn't very impressed, although I don't remember it very well. I don't remember all of the details, but I remember people weren't super happy. I guess the word is this book is the bee's knees. This is much better. It's very keen, Heather. Much better than the movie. Here, I'll play you a sample. And, by the way, read by Jodie Foster.
Ooh. Turned once a day. It had to be moving at an unbelievable speed. She thought she could now actually feel the Earth turn. Not just imagine it, but really feel it in the pit of her stomach. It was like descending in a fast elevator. Gratifyingly, she was overtaken by the giddy sense that unless she clutched the clumps of grass on either side of her, she would fall up into the sky. When she was 11, her beloved father died, and everything changed. In the 7th grade, they were studying pi. It was a Greek letter that looked like the architecture at Stonehenge. If you measured the circumference of a circle and then divided it by the circle's diameter, that was pi. The teacher said that pi was about 3.1416. But if you wanted to be exact, it was a decimal that went on and on forever without repeating the pattern of the numbers. Forever, Ellie thought.
I mean, you can just hear Carl coming through the writing, right? You can hear Carl write, and to have Jodie Foster read it is a treat. The reviews are great. People give it a ton of thumbs up. And you know what? If you use the link in the show notes, you can get the book for free. If you're signing up for Audible, they'll give you that book for free. And the best part is, if you don't end up keeping the Audible subscription, you get to keep the book. They don't take the book back.
That's so awesome.
That is really awesome, but you won't. I love Audible, and that is...
I know.
It has been such a treat. I am currently getting through a massive history book, which you would think is a snore, but it actually is a great way to get bits of information from a medium that I never would sit down and read this history book, but it is a great listen. So that's audible.com. You have to use the link in the show notes now for us to get credit. But a couple other things before we move on, before we just wrap up, is I've added links to the bottom of jupiterbroadcasting.com. Any page over jupiterbroadcasting.com has little links for Amazon US, Amazon UK, Newegg, Best Buy, ThinkGeek, Mint.com, Audible. just
all the pages?
Visit just visit jupiterbroadcasting.com, and before you shop, you can find the links down there. Like, everybody loves ThinkGeek. Everybody loves Newegg. So when you're shopping, just shop there, click there first. And heck, you could even open up another Jupiter Broadcasting show in a tab while you shop. And then a portion of your purchase goes to support the network. So thanks to everybody who clicks those links. Just go to any page on jupiterbroadcasting.com, scroll down to the bottom, and then click those before you start shopping, and you're all set. There you go. See, I did. Can you tell I worked on the website today before we did the show?
You did. I saw some of that stuff. It's really cool.
Yeah, it
really
is nice,
sick
right?
now.
Yeah, and it makes it really easy. And we have links in there for the US and the UK. And if you're in another country and you shop frequently from Amazon, and oh my gosh, if you have Amazon Prime and you buy things as frequently as I do, just click there first. It's awesome. I love Amazon Prime.
All it takes is a scroll and a click.
All right, that's right. That's right.
All it takes is scroll and click.
All right, thanks everybody who does that. It is time for the News Bite.
All right.
What's up first in the News Bite, Heather?
A lot of us people have heard of SpaceX. It's one of these private companies that's, going into space. They're doing the thing on their own, on their own dime, trying to make money from it. And they've been the SpaceX has launched a test version of a capsule that could take materials up to the space station. It would be the first private satellite or probe or anything to get to the space station, give them supplies. And unlike other ones, so most of them go up, they give them the supplies, the space station dumps all its trash because space station has trash, and it burns up in the atmosphere coming back. This particular one that SpaceX has can actually survive re-entry. So what if they had some test samples that they wanted to get back to Earth? So they could package up their trash, have a little storage compartment for the testing materials or something that they wanted to get back down quickly, and re-enters the atmosphere and lands, and you can go retrieve and dump all the stuff. Now, they had originally planned to ship to this space station on February 7th.
Right. This was kind of like a big deal.
Yeah. It has been pushed back a little bit towards the end of March.
Ooh. Oh, why?
Well, they're saying they need to do some more testing, things of that nature, sort of iron out the kinks. And you'd rather it do that.
Oh, absolutely.
Take a little more time than something catastrophic failure and you push back a whole lot longer.
On one that has this much attention, people are really going to be watching to see if private space flight is going to be a viable commercial solution. And if you had something go wrong on this first flight, it could really set the industry back.
Yeah. That's one of the things they said is, they're like, even if we aren't the first, we're not particularly caring about the historical value. We just want to be able to do this. I mean, financially speaking, NASA needs to get stuff up to the station. It's got to pay somebody to get stuff up there now.
Right now we're making deals with other governments that do have active space travel divisions or whatever.
Going up and down.
Yeah.
So what if we could pay an internal or just a private company somewhere? Say, hey, here's your money. Go get up there. Now, NASA is actually going to give them some supplies when they go to come up to the station. They won't be mission critical ones. It won't be like they're on the verge of no food and, the package blows up. You don't want that to happen or it to not get to the station.
Right.
So they're going to give them some extra supplies that aren't necessarily mission critical in case of catastrophic failure. But they're going to give them stuff and they'll bring it up to the space station. They'll deliver the supplies and sort of re-enter the atmosphere. Actually, they're going to carry several hundred pounds of materials up to the space station.
Like food, probably? I mean, what would you send up to several hundred pounds, but not critical?
There could be backup food supplies. You could have new instrumentation. There's a whole bunch, oxygen or scrubbers.
What would be sweet in space is a tablet. Because, now this sounds lazy of me, but I don't know if you have a tablet, Heather, but if you're laying on the couch on your back, say, and you're super comfortable, after a while, it gets really heavy to hold that tablet above your face. But if you were up in space,
your tablet floats.
So that's probably what's in that ship. That's what I'd be saying.
They have had handheld items up in space, and you can sort of see it in some images. Now, of course, NASA won't officially say, we've had this in space, or we've had that, because
that'd be promoting a single company.
It'd be promoting something specific. But they have had stuff up there. And there have actually been talks, of various scientists or engineers say, why don't we program all the lights through this and everything through this? And the astronauts come back and say, can we have a switch too?
Yeah.
In case, it crashes or decides it doesn't like us that day.
Right.
And it's going to flicker the lights every 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
We'd like a switch.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Especially.
It's useful technology, but for the space station, for something critical when there's in space, no one can hear you scream. It's good to have redundant systems too.
Yeah. So to be honest, this is the part of the private space travel that I don't like. Now, not that NASA would have been way better at this, but we're just left with pretty much no information because a privately held company can be as private as a privately held company wants to be.
Well, yeah.
Whereas at a certain level, a governmental institution like NASA has to tell us
freedom of information.
Yeah, at least something, right? A little more information than that.
Well, it's like any R&D company. Like, I work at a small R&D company. We can publish, we've done this, but we don't have to give anyone the details. Why? Because we're a private company. That's part of the deal it's like medical manufacturers or any manufacturer that has some little twist to the system to make it really work. Coffee companies, and they're like, we're going to bake it at this temperature and do something mysterious, but you can't know what.
And that's okay for competitive reasons. But at the same time, when it's something as new as space travel and something that really could be something that no one company should really have a monopoly on space travel.
Well, yeah, but there's multiple companies going on. And to be honest, there's been a few times where there's been something catastrophic happens, and they will release, there'll be a little bit of video and they'll say a couple words about it. Really, anyone in the industry? I mean, my boss heard about one of these.
It's pretty easy.
And within about 5 minutes, he went, I know what it was.
You connect the dot.
Yeah, you connect the dots and you draw the picture and you're like, oh, well, if that happened and they're talking about this, then it's, I've seen this kind of thing happen. It's obviously this happened, A led to B led to C, and that's what was going on.
Yeah. That's kind of like what we do every week in TechSnap when we talk about the security breaches.
Yeah.
And you know what? We usually end up that we nailed it too. So once you get more information. So, I mean, I totally dig that. But do you not think that certain innovations that came out as a result of the NASA space programs in the 60s and 70s that now the general public enjoys, like MRIs and, things like that? Velcro, supposedly. I don't know. Is that true?
Yeah, not really.
Okay. Won't that be something that's now missing from these private companies, at least to a degree? I mean, it's not going to be the same age of sharing or general reinvesting. See, I guess here's what it comes down to. It's in NASA's best interest to reinvest what they can back into the general U.S. economy and then out into the world from there. Where it is in Virgin Mobile's or Virgin or whatever, whoever owns SpaceX, it is in their best interest not to share that information as much as possible.
Yeah. Well, I know in some contract instances, I can't speak for all, but, NASA, they'll pay you to make this little innovation. And then they will say, you are allowed to patent it should you wish, but we get to use it for free.
That helps NASA.
Yeah. So they're kind of investing in possible useful things for them. And then the company gets incentive because if they make something really innovative, they get some of the cut too. So sort of a dual incentive going on. And so there's various contract ways that NASA can plug it in and say, we get to use this if you get to use that. And so there's still innovation. I mean, if somebody makes something really useful, it's there. They can sell it. Other people will kind of try to copy it.
Right.
It'll still...
It works its way out.
Yeah, it'll work its way
in
one direction, depending on how useful it is. Now, some things get buried, some things get pushed to the side.
And, there is a huge value on having multiple different camps of people trying different solutions to the same problem.
Yeah, there's...
Because there can't be, something that stands out.
Yeah, they're called solicitations. And, NASA will put these out, or various governmental agencies will put these out, and they'll say, we want a way to do this. We want balloons that can go up into the atmosphere, hang out for 4 weeks, and then come back in a vaguely specific location and bring back data. And then all these companies look at it and they say, ooh, I bet we could do this. So 6 companies, all turn in their ideas. And then they look at it and they say, we like this idea the best.
Right.
Go, have some money and try it out. And then, it works. They give them a little more money and they say, excellent, make it work even better.
Make it go to the moon.
Yes.
Did you mention that when this thing gets to the space station, they're going to use the arm of the space station to attach it to it?
That's right. Now, since there's not going to be any person in there, pretty much any of the connections that sort of happen right away without the arm are people driven essentially so far.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because you want somebody on the hand. There are AIs, but you really trust it so much. So most of the time, these kind of things will come up close to the station, then they'll reach the robotic arm out, grab it, and kind of position it up against the airlock. It'll attach in, and then they'll be able to open it and acquire everything that is inside.
I noticed, too, that this, when it re-enters Earth, will land, like on land, not in the water, not like on a runway, but like it'll come down straight and land on feet. Like, I don't know.
Like a reverse rocket launch.
Yeah. Like a reverse rocket launch. That's interesting to me. That's all. Just interesting on a side note. I didn't realize.
Yeah, I wasn't entirely sure of the landing procedures because I hadn't seen all the videos, but I knew it could. The actually re-entry part is very, very interesting and new and innovative in all of these, delivery and retrievals.
If it doesn't crash doing it, I would think it would save them a ton of money than having to go get it out of the ocean.
Well, yeah. I mean, some of these things, it just burns up in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
It's trash. It burns up in the atmosphere. A couple little pieces of burnt crisp station trash and metal land in the ocean. The fishes have to dodge it.
Right.
But if we could actually land it, then there could be items that, are there, the astronauts have medical data, they need to come back, or samples that can't really be beamed back because they don't have all the equipment on the station, because there's only so much equipment you can have, so they can get some items and then ship it back to Earth right away. Then we can use all the technology and equipment we have here on Earth to analyze it.
Well, and this is the necessary and important step to space tourism on a more frequent basis, where I could actually get up to a space station and rent a weekend up in space. And I swear to God, since I've been a small child, it has been my dream that when I'm an old retired man, that I can stay in a space hotel. And I pray that SpaceX is making that happen with these frequent flights and whatnot.
Yes, space has definitely been on my mind for a while.
Yeah. I mean, I can wait. I will wait to have a space hotel.
Astronaut status takes a lot. There's a lot of different little peaks and things that have to be all the right. You have to be in this condition and that's smart and all the right buttons have to be pushed. But if you could, like checking into a really nice hotel, just in space. Yeah.
Well, and the whole thing would begin once you get into space. I mean, it just would be so amazing to have this luxury liner like jet that flies and you go over them, you go over the Earth's horizon, and maybe they have large windows so you can
well, yeah, of course
they're gonna have windows. It'd be great.
It's funny because I can picture your face by my face, and it's all like kind of smiling into the side, and everybody who's ever thought of this is just kind of like eyes closed, head tilted in glee.
No, we'll be doing SciByte. We'll be doing SciByte. God, wouldn't that be great? Do SciByte from space. I don't know how we would live stream that.
Beam you from space.
We might only be able to do the audio stream from that. We might not be able to stream video. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where things are at.
Yeah, pre-recorded probably, and then beamed down.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we could record it there and release a whole series from space. SciByte from space.
Should anyone wish to see that, they'd be more than willing to pay the fee. We'd be happy to, oblige you.
And I kid, but Virgin America is working on a tourism jet that will fly into space and then come back down. It doesn't dock with a space hotel, but they are working on at least that step of it already. Like they're already selling seats.
Yeah, and they've been sold out of seats for a long time now. And it's big money for those seats, and they had it filled in no time flat. Everyone's like, whoa, that's a lot of money. We can't afford that. And they're like, hey, they pay the big money for the first couple. They pay us essentially to build a couple more, and then the price will come down and down.
Yeah.
As we fill out our fleet of space airplanes.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe like somebody like Bill Gates will come along and donate a bunch of money or something. You never know.
Yeah.
Can I wake you up? I got a question for you.
Yes.
Do dolphins talk in their sleep?
That is a very good question.
I thought it might be, and I thought maybe you'd just be the person to answer for me.
Yes. There was a group of dolphins born in captivity, doing their performances every day. So they're essentially dolphins that are ready and paying attention to remember information, learn, perform at their cues.
Sure.
And during the show, sounds are played during the background. And in this one particular instance, a new track was played. It had music, seagulls, dolphin whistles, and humpback whale calls. There's all this, new sounds coming in. And on the second side is that there's not a lot known about the nighttime sounds of dolphins. So there were some researchers, they hung on a lot of microphones in the dolphin's tank at night, just listening. And one night they supposedly heard 25 new different sounds.
I'm playing them right now. Before. That's what that weird sound is in the background. That's the dolphins.
Yes. And so when the scientists played it back, they kind of thought that the new sounds sounded similar to whale sounds.
That's amazing.
And if they hadn't heard it before, and it was after this new track with the humpback whale calls happened, they analyzed it by computer programs, and they said it was the same. They took 20 volunteers, played the nocturnal sounds and humpback whale songs, and about 76% of the time, people classified the dolphin sounds as real whales.
Yeah, here, I'll play it again and take a listen. It sounds a lot like a whale. Doesn't that sound like whales to you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does kind of.
Yeah. Huh. So why do they do that while they sleep?
Well, that's one of the questions. Are they wanting to they don't really much make noises during the day, and that's when they're, performing and on stage essentially, and at night they kind of get to relax. And are they practicing at night? Sort of, how you kind of sing in the shower while you're by yourself.
No.
And you're like, I'm going to practice and see how good I am. I'm like, no, not going to sing this to other people. Or, I don't sound too bad. I might try that around other people. So that kind of a thing.
Why isn't it just well, I guess maybe it's just a different dialect or something. Maybe it's like a more relaxed, more low-key kind of.
It could be. And some scientists say, I'm not all that convinced that that's what they're doing. Dolphins make a lot of different noises. It could just be that. And then there's some people who say, well, are they doing this in their sleep? Are they essentially sleep dolphin talking? And so they like really want to take, electroencephalograms. If you have a sleep issue, then you go and they hook your brain up.
Right.
And there's scientists who want to hook the little dolphin brain up so that they can kind of record the brains and determine when these sounds happen, are they asleep?
Okay, so they don't know for sure. Oh, okay.
They don't know if they're asleep or just awake and, sleepy, saying goodnight to each other, or are they practicing? So some scientists are not quite sure. They are known for mimicry. Songbirds will rehearse imitations of different sounds at night. So if they hear a new song, a new bird song, and they want to try to sing it themselves, they generally try to rehearse the imitation at night. So it's not all that unlikely that dolphins would do the same thing. But another idea is if they are doing it in their sleep, then it might indicate humans tend to, you absorb and really process a lot of data in your sleep.
Right. Yeah.
So the question is, if they are doing it in their sleep, is the same kind of thing happening to dolphins? Are they kind of on that same wavelength there?
Suggesting that their brains might be, fairly complex, like we've kind of suspected.
Yeah.
Or they're plotting their overthrow of humanity at night.
Yep. They're getting ready to goodbye and thanks for all the fish. They're preparing for their song.
Exactly.
It's their big opening number.
You nailed it. That's exactly what it is.
That's what it is.
Well, there's some actually interesting links in the show notes, folks, so you can go check those out, including, and I don't quite know the connection, but there is a Twitter feed that's talking about this that you include links to. I don't know what that does,
let's see. But oh my goodness, what was it?
I can't remember.
Oh, it was for the website that broke this information. So if you like this kind of information, then it's something you can follow in various ways.
Are you ready for my next question?
Sure.
What is supercritical water? And why is there a homeless exoplanet? And what do they have to do with each other?
Yes. Well, we've talked about exoplanets a lot.
Yeah.
Like a lot. They are awesome, and we're finding out new information about them a lot.
Thanks to Kepler in a big way.
Yep, looking at the dimming of a star as the planets transit. And they're one of these planets that was discovered fairly recently, a rocky planet, about, 7.5 times the size of the Earth, orbiting fairly close to its sun, about 40 light years away. New observations of this planet suggest that about a fifth of its mass could be light elements and compounds, including water. So they can see, what they do is they see the size of these by, what the dimness is, how dim it is. And Kepler will find that, and then ground-based telescopes can take very precise measurements of how much the star is wobbling because of the planet.
Right.
And that'll give them the mass of the planet. So then they have size and mass, and they can get density. So they can look at this stuff, and they can extrapolate a lot of this information from it. So, but with surface temperatures as high as over 4,000 Fahrenheit, it kind of makes it really weird to think that. But liquids can exist under high temperature, high pressure conditions.
Sure.
And such an extreme rate that they become supercritical. Kind of imagine it like a liquid like gas.
A pressure cooker.
Yes. Super pressure cooker. So if it's possible, we see this kind of thing in steam turbines too.
Yeah.
So it's certainly possible that the pressure and the heat, everything combined on this planet is creating supercritical water. Now, it's also possible they're imagining that it could be just seeping out of the planet's crust, essentially. So it's kind of seeping out. It's in there, it kind of seeps out, it's a little supercritical on the surface. But something really weird is definitely going on. And it is really interesting it's a brand new, exciting thing for scientists to discover. These really strange planets are really interesting. You see the regular planets and you get a lot of ideas for the models. And then you kind of look at these really strange ones and you're like, what do you think about this model?
Right. And look at all these unique planets.
Planet model.
We keep finding all these unique planets. And here we thought we'd find like these basic 5 templates that everything would be based around.
Yeah, and totally not that. Every time we think we have it figured out, Kepler finds like 20 more. And we're like,
Strange new worlds.
Yes.
Yeah. Star Trek had it right a long time ago. They knew.
Yes.
One of the things I thought that was interesting, not to jump ahead, but you had mentioned in the show notes here that 75% of the exoplanets in our galaxy might be free floating and no longer orbiting a star. That blows my mind.
Yeah. So there's actually been a few of these planets already observed, or they speculate very highly that the objects that they observed are free floating exoplanets. Now you can get those kind of things. Computer simulations show that there's a couple of different ways that this is likely to happen. At the end of a certain star's life, they, expand into a red giant. They say the sun at the end of its life will blow up to be a red giant, and it'll be as big as, just outside the Earth's orbit. But there's some question as it does that, the mass will change. So it sort of pushes the planets away. And it's certainly possible that some planet could just be pushed away and just kicked out of you're voted off the island, goodbye. So it's kind of sitting out there all by itself, and so it just floats through space.
It'd be very dark. It'd be a very dark planet.
Very dark, very cold, not a lot going on, except just flying in a general direction.
Maybe even kind of hard to see, I suppose. Like if if you were somehow in some sort of spaceship of the future hurling at it, and there was no sun to reflect off of it, it might be kind of hard not to run into it.
Yeah, if it's been free floating in space, then it'll be very cold. You can't see it on, any heat readings or thermal readings. You wouldn't be able to see it that way. There's no light shining on it. It's like you need giant headlights on your spaceship.
Or at least
radar headlights.
Yeah, I was going to say at least radar.
The radar out. You're like, oh, something's there. Turn to the left.
Well, let's hope that could ever be a problem that we have. I'll deal with that. Any other thoughts on that one?
Well, other ways that it could happen is disturbances. A star, another star passing by, or it moving through the galaxy. So in some way that it kind of jostles the system itself, and kind of a planet is again kicked off the island. It just kind of can't maintain a stable orbit around a star anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So just the planets get weirder and weirder.
Yeah, I like it. I like the weird. What do you say we talk about running our cars with seaweed?
Yes.
Now, this is a biofuel I can get behind in the Pacific Northwest, because I have no problems getting my hands on some seaweed.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Now, yes, seaweed, biofuel, getting fuel from biological material, some sort of living organism, biomass, anything that really uses carbon to grow. Seaweed does that. It's been something that's been searched after for years and years, because it's full of the sugars needed for the process. It grows really fast. It doesn't compete for land with crops, doesn't need fertilizer or fresh water.
And it creates like a ton of oxygen too, doesn't it?
Well, yeah. So you'd be able to break these down and just do it. Unfortunately, the cell walls of seaweed are really gummy. Oh. They're really hard to break what you need out of them in order to make an efficient biofuel. The process before this has been required, just takes too much energy, too much money, too much time in order to make it really efficient to use.
Okay. That's too bad.
Yeah. But research has now engineered a bacteria that is able to break down the cells so that ethanol and other useful products can be acquired from the seaweed.
Mm.
It's kind of creepy and scary almost. They developed it combining several enzymes, that could convert the interior into fuel. And then they kind of mixed those up in a Mr. Potato Head kind of way, and then jammed them inside E. coli.
Oh.
So the E. coli kind of breaks its way through, and then all the little stuff inside it breaks everything down.
So it was so they needed something that E. coli does naturally to accomplish that?
Yeah, well, there's some things in the medical field. They kind of, this cell naturally attaches to this kind of thing or that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
And then they'll be like, okay, well, that naturally does that. Let's fill it with this other stuff that we want to spread that medication to that location.
So in this case, it's E. coli.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So it's 80% theoretical efficiency now without even really further tweaking. So it could go higher. There's the possibility that even its partially broke down product could be used in nylons or plastics. And it's, a lot of people will be like, what about if it escapes?
Yeah.
Well, it's not really a lot of danger. E. coli really doesn't like anything except the human gut. It doesn't really live anywhere very long besides that. So ocean environment, it would not make it happy.
Oh, really?
It would make a very short lifespan for it.
Huh, okay.
Pretty much just like our stomach.
Well, and apparently Jack in the Box burgers, if I recall, from 10 years ago or so.
Yes.
Yeah, it does like the meat. Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, should we talk about crowdsourcing earthquakes?
Yes. We've talked before, last episode, about how social media can be used to gain scientific or medical information. So sort of everyone is talking about this.
Mm-hmm.
And so
analytics and trends.
Yeah. So seismologists are now getting on the bandwagon. They have sensors, posted around to measure earthquakes, and then after something happens, they'll go back and they'll interview people and they'll say, what did you remember it doing at this time, and what time did it happen? So, but recently there have started to be, just through the internet, citizen-generated reports where they're able to just look online, there's a forum or something, or they're able to look online and say, oh, this person's here, they felt this person's here, they felt that, at this time and at that time. So they've been able to sort of already start gathering information, and they've even set up websites that, specifically for people to say, at this location, right away, at this location at this time, it rattled my cup around on the table, or, oh my gosh, it knocked my book off the nightstand. So they can get sort of a better information about how strong it was in different locations. And they're starting to check out Twitter messages, focus on earthquake-related materials, so they can get real-time data. Because people will tweet right away. They're like, oh my gosh, earthquake here, or, things of that nature. So they can feed through those, try to get some information about that. There's actually seismic monitors that the public can use. You can attach it to buildings, public buildings, private buildings, and they'll send the data via Wi-Fi to a research facility. So, and there's even smartphone apps that are on the phone itself. And like when you're not carrying it, when it's just sitting on the table, it has a vibration sensor. So if something shakes, if you're out in California and you don't wake up for, the small ones, you just sleep right through them because it's no big deal, then it'll feel that shaking and it will report in. So they can look at all this data. There's more sensors becoming available. They're getting more data, and it's really starting to allow them to increase the amount of data, the density of the data, the observations. So it's all giving them a better idea, because the more data they have, the more detailed information they'll have about them, the increased understanding of them they can have. They can maybe start to understand them, kind of if there's anything happening before them. Can they give,
look for things that might indicate warnings? Yeah, exactly. That would be great. Have you been in many earthquakes?
No, nothing that could actually be felt. Grew up on the Gulf Coast, and now I sit in Denver, so not so much any location that's big. There have been some in Colorado, but none that I've really felt.
I remember one of the later ones that I was in, I was on the phone with somebody who felt it before I did. And
because as it travels through,
I just didn't, and I had never experienced an earthquake like that. And so I could see how you would have the spread of Twitter messages, oh my God, earthquake, right? As it hit them, and you could use that.
It happens in one location, and then the waves travel outward.
Yeah. But, it's probably interesting data in determining the length of time it takes to get to different locations. That's got to be valuable.
Oh, yeah. So they can see these kind of waves travel and just a lot of different data about that. I believe during some of the major earthquakes recently, they were able to kind of gain some knowledge about how bad things were in different locations.
Right. And so, also extremely useful, like we've talked about, I think maybe we might have mentioned it last week, but this kind of trending data could be really good in a really big disaster, like the Haiti kind of stuff, or, where you really need to get a handle on how bad a situation is. That's a great way to get that kind of information for free.
Yeah,
really.
If somebody's phone has power and they say, oh my gosh, in this area, no food, no water, then it's possible for them to, direct, supplies, to a specific location. There's a whole bunch of people here, there's a whole bunch of people in this school, and they have like 2 candy bars and a cup of water. Let's get them some food. It can sort of direct, not everything will be by that, but it'll help direct some relief efforts, maybe.
Yeah. Boy, interesting just to see all of the ways that stupid little things like Twitter and Facebook can actually be used, even and in ways that are not stupid at all.
No.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on that one?
No, it's just kind of interesting how this all, like you said, all this kind of data is coming back and being very useful to scientists as they jump on board and say, hey, there's a lot of data there. It's free. Let's go get it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, stand by, Heather, because I'm going to open up the SciByte computer here, and here we go. Let's get a spacecraft update in here. What's going on with these spacecraft?
New Horizons, the one that's going towards Pluto, started its journey in January of 2006. It has now marked the 6th anniversary of its launch.
Oh.
It's completed about 2/3 of the journey. It's got about a little over 2 billion miles on its odometer. Got another billion to go.
So we're wasting time on that crappy Pluto, huh?
Poor Pluto.
That's an old.
Well, the other big thing is this summer they're going to have a 24-hour dress rehearsal, essentially. Because when it's time for Pluto, they'll only really have 24 hours as they shoot past it.
Wow.
They're not orbiting in it. They're just going really fast in one direction. They have to cram all the data they can in one location. So what they're doing is a complete rehearsal, starting up all the computers, taking all the data, beaming it all back, using all the bits of equipment they have. Be like, let's make sure everything works 100%. They're uploading a couple of updates to the onboard computer.
Remotely.
So they're kind of
while in flight.
Yes. So they're getting it ready, shaking out all the stuff while they still have enough time to go, that didn't act right. We still have a couple years to go. Well, let's think about that really hard and then try again.
I hope you're not going to come on here next week and say, so remember how I said they're doing a software update? Well, it crashed.
Oh.
I don't want that.
No, it's not till the summer.
Oh, okay.
Summer of 2012.
Oh, okay. All right.
So hopefully we won't be here in 6 months and there won't be sad science base.
Well, tune in, folks. We'll find out.
Yes. There's a whole bunch of fun Pluto factoids in the show notes in case you're interested. And the Twitter feed to the spacecraft itself and a whole bunch of pictures and videos and all sorts of information about it.
I don't know if you caught this, kind of digging through the news and whatnot, but more stories. In fact, the Huffington Post this last week ran a story about the Russians' claims about the U.S. bringing down Phobos.
Yes.
It's not dying. It's like these different
news.
And the funny thing is we covered it like 3 weeks ago on SciByte, and these other news outlets are just picking it up now, and they're not getting their facts straight.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it kind of comes and goes in waves, and some scientists will be like, no, sorry guys. And then they'll come back and they'll be like, no, really, it's not us. Totally not us. It was radar.
Yeah.
Beaming radar.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we covered it like 2 episodes ago, but essentially what it came down to is the HARP system would be able to deliver as much interference as a 60-watt light bulb. And if they're up in space and a 60-watt light bulb can knock them down, then they probably weren't going to make it to Mars in the first place.
No, they'd probably, fly over one of their major cities and be like, ew.
Speaking of Mars and all that stuff, do you want to move on to this Opportunity rover stuff, or is there anything else you want to touch
Yes.
on? Okay, let's do that.
Let us move on to Mars.
Yeah.
As you may have guessed, I like Mars.
Yeah.
It's a good planet.
For those of you who don't watch or don't join us in the chat room, Heather's IRC handle is Mars Based because she's all about Mars bases.
Yes. So one interesting thing of note is this week we just passed the 8th anniversary of Opportunity rolling around rolling around Mars.
Oh.
So I know it had a 3-month warranty, and 8 years later, it's still rolling.
That's awesome.
Well, not right now.
Right.
Its solar panels are pretty dusty, so it's kind of hunkering down for the winter.
I believe the technical details in that thing is it has a PowerPC chip in it, and it runs Linux, and it uses Java for the application. So there you go.
Nice.
There's a system built to last.
Yep. So what's interesting to note is that in the very data they sent back and forth, they're going to get more precise measurements of the planet's rotational speed. And we had some from the Viking missions. So what they're going to be able to do is analyze what it was then, what it is now, and by changes in the rotational speed of Mars itself, they can get some data from the core of Mars. It's solid, is it liquid? They'll take this data over 3 to 6 months, and they really get an in-depth picture of the Martian interior just from the signals. This is one of those times when you get more data from just the beam of data.
Yeah. Wow. I love it when they do that because it's just.
I know. They're like, eke every little bit they can from every little bit they can.
We get data from the signal that sends us our data. We derive data from that. And that only comes from them having such a profound scientific understanding of the principles of the technology involved.
Yeah.
And that's what's so awesome about it.
And them going, what all can we do with this? It is the little winter. So every winter they kind of go, all right, well, first of all, every day is a happy day. Every day is one more day that they have, and they say pretty much don't expect tomorrow that it's going to be working.
Right.
And especially in the wintertime, the sun is really low. They're only going to get so much power. So it's always a real fear every Martian winter is, are we going to be here in the Martian spring?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Let's find out.
I hope so. I hope we can keep talking about it for at least a little while. I know it is getting to the point where we might have to realize that we're going to eventually hear a news story about this Mars, especially Opportunity, right? That's the one that's really still kicking.
Yep. Spirit went quiet a little while ago.
Yeah. Well, you never know.
Yep.
Okay. Should we move on? Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Good news, because it's time for the science calendar here on SciByte. Now, this is the fun part because Heather and I get to jump in the time machine. All right, Heather, come on, get in the time machine.
All right.
Let's go. Let's get in here.
I'm hanging on.
All right. Our first looking back from science in this week takes us to January 27th, 1888, 124 years ago. What do we got?
The National Geographic Society was founded.
Oh.
I was surprised it was so long ago.
Actually, that is 124 years. That's pretty respectable.
Yeah. It was started as sort of, about 33 people, and they'd meet every once in a while. And that was actually when the official magazine or newspaper started. I mean, within a couple of months. It was founded in January. By October, they were publishing, as part of the membership benefits, something that would say with photographs or articles, topics from geography to space, all sorts of various science stuff going on. And they've awarded over 9,000 grants for scientific research, sponsoring museums and traveling exhibits. But they started doing all this, even the magazine, in 1888.
Wow. That's pretty, that's an establishment now at this point. You know what I'm saying?
Some of these things I'm like, whoa, really that long ago?
Yeah. And it just keeps on going. January 27th, 1957, 55 years ago, which is, by the way, 25 years and a day before I was born, hearts get a portable jumpstart.
That's right. In 57, the external artificial pacemakers were made that could have, internal electrodes used to, keep the heart going at the proper rate. Before then, they were kind of essentially plugged into the wall.
Oh, so you were, oh boy. Oh, wow. What a massive breakthrough.
Yeah, so they were essentially plugged into a wall or to a battery, and if something happened to that, you were in trouble. If the power went out, you're like, oh no, power went out. Everyone's like, oh, how awkward. And they're like, no, really, oh no.
Yikes.
So there was a doctor finally got a medical advance saying, that bulky equipment isn't really good for a long time. And actually infections would occur where the electrical wires were. So there's no interruption in house electricity that causes you to be scared. There's less.
Oh,
infections.
How did they run the wires? That's disgusting.
Yes, it's almost best not to think about it.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's like poking through.
Hey, I got another idea.
Yeah.
Let's go to 54 years ago, January 30th, 1958.
Please be careful standing on or off the platform.
What's this?
First moving sidewalk.
What?
The first.
We don't have moving sidewalks today.
Well, the first in 1958, that was the two-way one.
Oh, okay.
It was, over 1,400 feet long in the Loveland Airfield, Dallas, airport. Had 3 big loops, had rubber carpets, so they could kind of weave and turn. But the interesting thing that I found out was the first moving sidewalk was at the World's Fair in Chicago in 1893, 119 years ago.
119 years ago. Wow.
Yeah, that was essentially, a little wide carpet. It had poles to hang on to and sort of rolled along in this big circuit and actually had little benches for the ladies to sit down.
Oh, how nice. Of course, that was for the World's Fair, so that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it was for the World's Fair, but I was amazed that 119 years ago they had these.
Yeah, seriously. Absolutely. All right. Well, that is the week in science, which means we now take the SciByte computer and we look up into the sky. What are we looking for this week, Heather?
On Wednesday, January the 15th, Venus was going to be to the upper left of the crescent moon, about in twilight. On Thursday, it'll be below and slightly to the left at twilight again. Huh. On Friday, it'll appear right below. Huh. So sort of moving each night. And on Saturday, Jupiter will actually be some to the left of the moon, a little bit away, maybe a couple of fists away.
On Saturday?
But, yep, on Saturday, January 28th,
awesome.
Jupiter is hanging out.
I got to check. You got it, everybody. You got to go get a little, come on. It's our namesake. You got to go get a glimpse of Jupiter. I
know.
I love it when Jupiter peeks his little head out. Oh, nothing little about it, actually.
Yeah. Well, on Sunday, now there's going to be a bright star in the sky. That's not a planet. This time it is the Sirius the Dog Star. It's a really bright star. Flickers all sorts of different colors, at least to my eye. But Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, we have lots of planets.
Cool.
Sunday, star.
I always like the planet. I mean, the stars are great too, but come on.
Yeah.
Okay.
And for our Southern Hemisphere friends, Friday, January the 27th, Venus will be appearing with the moon. And on Monday, January the 30th, Jupiter is going to be above the moon in the northwest sky.
Nice. There you go. Southern Hemisphere.
Everyone has planets to look forward to.
Yeah, everybody can plan to go find their Jupiter. And now, of course, if Heather just mentioned it and you missed it, all of that's also written in the show notes over at jupiterbroadcasting.com. What are the show notes? Go find SciByte 30. When you click on SciByte 30, there'll be the video. You scroll down, and then we have all of the show notes, like copious links.
Yes.
It's like linktacular in there, you guys.
You're going to drown in links, but it'll be good.
No, it's good. And there's video clips of things we talk about. So next week is the video edition of SciByte.
That's right.
Are you excited? It's been more than 30 days because of the holidays.
Yeah, it's been a little while, and this month was long.
Yeah.
But
I can go dust off the old science set. I think I left it around here somewhere.
Dust the cameras off and get our video science on.
Get that TV screen that we put you on working again. I have the Xbox hooked up to it right now.
So. Well,
All right, Heather. Well, great show. Thanks so much.
Great show. All
right, everyone. Well, thanks for tuning into this week's episode of SciByte. Now, SciByte comes out every Wednesday morning over at jupiterbroadcasting.com, and we stream live at jblive.tv on Tuesday evenings at 7:30 p.m. Pacific. We'll see you back here next week.